Shabbat shalom, everyone. I hope you've had a great week. This week's parsha is Noach. We meet Noah, famous Noah and his ark. This is a story that everyone really loves because, there's the idea of cute animals, there's a boat, there's water. Noach is a good guy. But when we're older, when we look at these stories later on, we realize there are some things that don't totally add up. So when Noach is first introduced, he's introduced as a righteous man who was perfect in his generation. Noach ish tzadik tamim haya b'dorotav. In his generation, specific. So we know that in the Torah we don't get extraneous words. So why is it that Noach is righteous in his generation? Rashi, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, essential Torah commentator, says that this means that Noach was only really righteous in comparison to the people around him. That if he existed at the time of Abraham, that he wouldn't really be consequential. So, it's not such a compliment to Noach. I think that existing in a time that's really difficult, that's really, with people have really poor character, I think to be righteous is even harder. So I give him points. But we look deeper into Noach. Okay, so Noach is righteous, and God, finds favor in him. He asks Noach, he says, please build this ark, take 2 of every kind of animal, and I'm going to destroy the world because everyone is terrible. Okay, well, firstly, why is everyone so terrible? The main sin, the main avera that everyone on earth is doing right now is robbery. They're robbing each other, stealing from each other. The word used is Hamas. But what's so bad about robbery? Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch said that it wasn't that they were just robbing, it was that they were doing these petty crimes that were not punishable by law. So they were evading actual punishment and still committing crimes, which is the epitome of social corruption. When you're not being punished for bad things that you're doing, you just continue doing it and you become a corrupt person. Your sense of moral boundaries is totally gone. So things were not great. So God says, Noah, build this ark. So we learned that it took Noah about 120 years to build the ark. So you'd think if someone's building a huge ark out on their lawn, that someone would come by and say, hey, what are you doing? We have to assume that someone did this. But when it's time for Noah to go off on the ark, it's only him and his family. So there was nobody who came by and said, hey, what are you doing? And Noah was like, oh yeah, I'm building an ark because God's going to destroy the world because everyone's terrible. I don't know if someone told me that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what do I have to do to get on the ark with you? What do I have to do to repent? But Noach wasn't able to get anyone to repent over those 120 years. So was he truly a righteous person? Noach is described as a tzaddik impels. He's a rich man in a fur coat. When you're cold, you have 2 options. You can build a fire or wear a coat. What happens if you wear a coat? It's just you that's warm. If you build a fire, everyone around you can be warm. So tzaddik impels is someone who's nice, good, and snug in their goodness, but they're not necessarily looking to share their goodness with others or to make others good as well. And that's kind of how we think about Noach. It's not such a happy thing to think, but that's kind of the image that we have of him. So it rains for 40 days, 40 nights. Noach and his family are on this ark for about a year, a little over a year. And finally, the earth is dry enough for them to step out. And God gives a rainbow. He sends a rainbow out. And he says, this is my covenant to you. I will never flood the earth again. Humankind can exist forever. For all the days of the earth, it will exist. It's a really beautiful idea that the rainbow, this beautiful thing, this beautiful, the rainbow after the rain, you can't have the rainbow without the rain. We have this idea. It's nice. So let's talk about the rainbow. A rainbow happens when water that's suspended in the atmosphere has light go through it and it refracts and makes a rainbow. That is the epitome of earthly, divine interaction to produce something beautiful. In the pre-flood world, rainbows didn't exist. Also, godly and human interaction didn't exist. Before the flood, the world was just bestowed by God, health, happiness, nice weather, all these good things were, directly bestowed by God, but there wasn't any human interaction with it. It was just like a one-way street. Once the flood happens, the world's allowed to interact with God. The world isn't allowed to be a partner in creation, and that is what the rainbow represents. Water rises, light hits, refracts, and makes a rainbow. The 2 things together make a really beautiful world. Human interaction with God makes a world that we can refine and make better. We're not pointless here on earth. We have a purpose. The world can only reach its best potential, its greatest potential, when we as humans act with God as partners in creation. So think about the godly given gifts that you have. Are you a really good public speaker? Are you a really good dancer? You could have just been bestowed upon that by God, fine. But natural talent only goes so far. You need to actually work on that talent, on those gifts, and then it can be brought to its full potential. And that is why we exist on earth. Man was meant to toil the soil. Man was meant to exist on earth. Man was meant to bring the world to its full potential. And it's an important thing to recognize because we were bestowed upon gifts, fine, but we must work with God every day to make ourselves the best that we can possibly be. We are partners in creation every day. So think about this. What are you a partner in creation with God about? Think about it. I hope you have a great Shabbat. Thanks so much.